Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. I was really glad when I saw that this was the gospel for today. I love the parables of the lost. Today we are going to look at how God handles lost things. The genius of the parables of Jesus is, of course, that they are outrageous. People behave in ways we don't expect. We have to figure out who is wrong in the parables, who is right. We have to figure out who is representing God in the parables and who is representing the flawed humans. Jesus' parables are genius and timeless. Now, first we are to notice how the telling of these parables is set up. Jesus, by many people's minds, then was thought to be the great candidate to be that promised Messiah, right? And it was thought that he could fulfill all of God's promises for Israel. So the religious leaders didn't think that Jesus was representing that role, since he was associating with the sinners. And as we know, Jesus not only associated with them, he sought them out. The people that others deemed unworthy, maybe others deemed lost. Those you always hear me call the least, the last, and the lost. You know, us. So we read in Luke, the Pharisees and religious scholars were not pleased at all. They growled, he takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends. And those criticisms triggered these lost parables. So we start with the lost sheep. Jesus wants us to imagine that we are the shepherd, and we have 100 sheep, and that one of them has become lost. He puts us in this story. He asks in verse 6, wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one till you found it? Well, if we stop right here and analyze this parable, we have to say that maybe that question is silly. Here's where Jesus is probably smiling coyly. Because if we were good businessmen and women, we'd have to say, well, no. I'm not going after that one dumb sheep. It would be bad business to put into jeopardy 99% of my inventory. I will just cut my losses rather than risk losing more. After all, if I leave, what happens if the wolves and the coyotes come to the 99 while I'm gone finding the one? What if I come back to only 50 sheep? So, already we're upside down with Jesus. With his upside down question, he makes us step outside the box of logical thinking. The story continues with the shepherd not even going back to the 99 from verses 5 and 6. And when he finds the lost sheep, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Not back to the 99. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep. The shepherd is not behaving logically or exhibiting good business practices. You should go back to the 99 and make sure they were okay, not go home to party. The story just becomes more and more ridiculous. But the 99 sheep are not the reason for this story. This is about the one lost sheep. This is about us. We are to learn that the only thing that is important to God is coming after us when we are lost. The shepherd will step out of the role of good sheep rancher, good businessman, find the lost. God in those moments doesn't want to be a bookkeeper, following logic, making sure rules and protocols are being followed. God wants only to find his beloved who have become lost and show them God's radical love. And then the icing on the cake of this parable, in verse 7, there's more joy in heaven over one sinner's rescued life than over 99 good people in need of no rescue. Now, so I guess then we can have a punchline. Have you ever met any of the righteous 99 who were in no need of repentance? Maybe this is about the 99. Have you ever met any of those righteous who were also somehow, some way, at some time lost? Haven't we, righteous 99, as Romans 3:23 says, all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God? So if we all sin and fall short, aren't we all in need of the shepherd to lovingly find us? If I am no more lost than you, it takes away my ability to judge you, or to think that your version of lost is worse than mine. Did you hear that in the Corinthians reading, verse 16? So we have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. It's very important. That little tiny scripture kind of gets lost today. With this prodigal son is so familiar. So we have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. That's what Jesus brought us. We must see others through the eyes of the seeker of the lost. Brilliant. It isn't about the 99 because we're all the one. We're all the one. Brilliant. So now Jesus tells of the lost coin. The concept and the imagery has changed. God is not a shepherd in this parable. God is represented by the woman. And just like the shepherd was a little bit off, leaving the 99, so too this woman does not care for her remaining 9 coins. First, she notices one is missing. She stops everything, does massive spring cleaning in order to find this one coin. Then what does she do when she finds it? Just like the crazy shepherd who doesn't return to the sheep fold, we read that her first order of business is to call friends and come over and party. Rejoice with me. I have found my lost coin. Now, aside from some great possible, party food, her party to celebrate a found coin doesn't sound that interesting. We can feel sorry for that little lost sheep, but we don't really feel anything in our hearts for the coin. It's not hurt or sad that it's lost. It doesn't know it's lost. The sheep and the coin in parable, when looked at together, show us that God's behavior toward us is not about how or why we got lost. Whether we don't know we're lost, like the coin, or we aimlessly wandered away, like the sheep, or we purposefully went to a far-off place, like the son. And it's certainly not about pointing out exactly how wrong we were. It's not about the punishment to fit the crime. God doesn't blame the sheep and the coin or the son and reprimand and punish them. It says that in that little gem of Corinthians 2. You read that, reread that, take that home and study all. That's packed with stuff. Nor does God look backward and review all the other times we've been lost. Though God certainly could. You have a right to, right? Don't you remember you went down that road before, Kristen? Come on. You got lost then too. Don't you remember? Rather, God just rejoices when we're found. It's all about God's need to find us and the value God places on us. A good example then of a coin. Jesus knew people valued money. The seeker, to go to such great lengths, values, cherishes that which is lost. And God not looking back and reprimanding, that's what makes it easy to come back to God. I don't know if any of you have ever lost your child in a venue. I lost Marshall in Kings Island once. He was maybe about 5, and he'd gone into some ride, and I waited for him because that ride was not going to happen for me. And he went out and wandered away, thought he was coming back to where I was, and he got turned around, couldn't find him for a while, and then went into frantic mom mode, and the announcement came, Christy Zimmerman, they pronounced my name wrong, you have a lost child at the such and such food. Went running, Marshall and I running, got down on my knees, hugged him. What do you think the first thing I did to him was, how could you wander off? Right? That's the human knee-jerk reaction. And then I lost him in New York City. We were all getting onto a subway. I think I've told this story before. We were all getting onto a subway, and my sister realized that we were getting on the wrong train, and she goes, oh, no, this isn't the right train. And we all backed off and set Marshall, and the doors closed, and away he went. And all I could think was, because I used to live in New York City, 9 million people, I'll never find him. That was, my thought. And happily, I didn't yell at him this time. I seemed to have learned the parental lesson. Robin took over because I was just a hot mess and found out that I'm probably no good and a disaster. She went to the police and they stopped him they stopped the train at the next stop, and these policemen got him off the train. And we got up there, and Marshall was standing between these two New York City policemen, and I have a picture. It's just precious. And the found things. We're more about the finding. That's what we want. We want to find what we cherish when they get lost. And that's God to us. These parables are all about the need of the finder to find, not about the need of the lost to be found. We all have lostness, for all have sinned and fallen short. All, not just 1 out of 100, not just 1 out of 10, not just 1 out of 2 brothers. God is all about the finding of all of us when we get lost. So now we find the prodigal son. And we know the story. The story of the son who ended up broken and just utterly lost. The good son stayed home and did everything he was supposed to. That lonely high road. The lost son came home. And here we see that the father is representing God in this story. The father sees his son far off. He seeks out the son, actually. Now, he could self-righteously stand there, tapping his toe with his arms crossed. Where have you been? Where's all the inheritance? But he seeks. In fact, it says he runs. Hugs and kisses and tells him, like the shepherd and the woman, that it's time for a party. God runs to us. We will celebrate you being found. It's time for a party. And if you notice the verse where the father confesses, or the son confesses to the father doesn't even say, I forgive you, da-da-da-da. He's almost like, yeah. Come on, everybody get over here, let's have a party. And the end of this parable, though, sadly, is kind of a downer, with the brother being all whiny and disgruntled. And then the father has to say to that good son, my son, you were always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was lost and is now found. Can you hear the tenderness in this from that father? Again, the father could have said, oh, stop whining, get in there and party. The father is showing the brother, he's modeling how to have compassion and forgiveness. The brother perceives himself to be the righteous unlost. He didn't go anywhere. Those who don't think they need to be sought and found, right? And here's the beauty of the ending of this parable. The prodigal is inside at the party. He's found. But now the father is with the brother. And the father always seeks the lost. And here he is. Finding the one who thinks he isn't lost. That son is too busy mired in his judgment of his brother, being disgruntled and looking backward. How lost is that? But the father shows the same welcoming love to the other son. We cannot get away from the love that will not let us go. Romans 8:38 and 39, neither death nor life, angels nor demons, neither the present or the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, not anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ. That is the love that will not let us go. It's incredible. God, represented by that Father, never ceases to seek and to find the lost, to welcome, to forgive, to rejoice. If God didn't treasure us, value us, would there be joy when we are found? It would just be a duty. If I don't treasure something, I'm really not sure I care, first of all, if it's lost. And then I don't care much to celebrate when I found it, but God. And in fact, all of heaven rejoices over us. We read that in the scriptures in so many places. God rejoices over us flawed humans. And always will, as long as we walk this earth. We can realize a few things in realizing that we will always be lost, even when we don't realize it, like the brother. We can feel and appreciate the perseverance and faithfulness of God who keeps finding us. We can realize that we will always have human failings and weaknesses. We can rely on that unconditional love of God within that. In realizing that we are lost and that we really wish and long to be found, we can know the comfort of God when we get found. We can know that God is our home. God leaves the porch light on for us, always. God will always be there when we come back onto the path. Whether we've been lost on purpose, or we've wandered off accidentally, or we were carelessly lost, God seeks, God retrieves, and then God rejoices. What a wonderful God we have. God says, hello, it's me. I couldn't sleep. I was just counting sheep, and I'm missing you. Amen.